There's sort of two types of reactions that I get um, to the two different types of content that I produce about the West. There's the content that I produce about the West that talks about how the owners and controllers of global financialized capital are destabilizing Europe, destroying Europe. And I've made many videos about that and warning about that. And then there's the types of videos where I'm critical of the West, Western culture, Western values, so-called Western civilization. And these two types of content generate two types of comments from Westerners in the comment section. For the videos about the destabilization of Europe, people agree that that's happening. Westerners agree that that's happening. They recognize it, they see it. But then they're asking me for advice about what they can do about it. And then the response that I'm typically getting from Westerners on the videos that are critical of so-called Western civilization, Western culture, Western values, is Westerners who are triggered and who are defensive and who think that I'm just hating on the West. What I would like to point out is that these two issues are related. These two issues are connected. In fact, they're interdependent. First of all, I think that both of these types of content, in my opinion, and my intention behind both of these types of content is compassion. It's not hate. Both of these are a form of compassion for people in the West, because I think that what's happening to them is terrible, is tragic. And I can't separate, and I don't think it is possible to separate, the system that is cannibalizing them from the culture out of which it grew, and the values out of which it grew, and the civilization that gave birth to it. And the two different reactions by Westerners to these two different types of content, what can we do, versus their defensive, triggered reaction to critique of Western civilization and criticism of Western values and Western culture. That shows me why there's no point in answering the first question, as in what you can do. Because the system that is destroying you was created by your culture. The system that is destroying you was given birth to by your civilization, and it is maintained by your values. You have to stop lying to yourself. They insist on making a separation and saying it's not the values, it's not the culture, it's not the civilization, it's people in power. Well, where did they come from? Except your culture, except your values, except your belief system. Your belief system is what gave them power, and your belief system is what is allowing them to maintain and consolidate and preserve their power and keep you crippled. Your civilization has betrayed you. You've been lied to. And the only way that you can even begin to make some kind of a positive change in the society is to first stop believing the lies. You can't separate what a culture produces from the culture that produced it. You can't separate the outcomes of the values that you espouse from the values that you espouse. It's connected. So it doesn't make any sense for you to agree with my critique of the system that is oppressing you in the West and that is destroying you in the West. It doesn't make any sense for you to agree with that, but to reject the criticism of the culture that made that possible. It doesn't make any sense for you to compartmentalize like that and act as if this system was created in a vacuum, or that this system was imposed on you externally. The system is a product of your culture. The system is a product of your values. The system is a product of your civilization. And I know what many Europeans will say. They've already said it in the comment section here and there. When I say that you made your society what it is, they'll say, no, our society has been sabotaged. Our society has been overrun. Our society has been undermined. Our society has been taken over by Jews. They'll lay the blame at the feet of the Jews. That's a conspiracy theory that only serves the purpose of shifting blame from your own culture, your own civilization, your own values, your own beliefs, and your own society. And continuing to promote that conspiracy theory is not going to help you solve your problems, because your problem is not the Jews. It's you. You did it. And they do this all the time. They lay American support for Israel at the feet of the Jewish lobby. The Jewish lobby spends about as much money on political lobbying as the poultry lobby and the dairy lobby. They don't spend anywhere near the same kind of money as the defense industries. So it's not the Jews. The Jews didn't corrupt you. The Jews didn't take over your country. Stop talking about the Jews. It's getting embarrassing. Anti-Semitism in Europe is a very serious thing. I think it's more serious there than anywhere else in the world. And I know that there's many people, and I've seen this also in the comment section, who believe that when I talk about the owners and controllers of global financialized capital, it's a code word for Jews. No, it's not. And I've explained in detail why that's not the case, why that is a completely absurd and unfounded conspiracy theory. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's just pretend in your world that the whole problem in Europe falls at the feet of the Jews, that the Jews corrupted you, that the Jews created a corrupt financial system that is destroying you and exploiting people and drowning people in debt and interest. Let's just pretend that it's the Jews. Okay. It still comes down to there's something about your culture, there's something about your value system, there's something about your civilization that allows you to be corrupted, to be overrun, to be controlled. The Jews lived in the Muslim empire. They lived in the Muslim world. They lived under the Muslims for centuries. They lived and thrived and prospered under the Muslims. And they often held very important positions in the society. And we did not experience, the Muslims did not experience, the same outcomes of depravity and debt and corruption that you today in Europe are trying to lay at the feet of the Jews. So even if it is the Jews, clearly you can see that somehow our civilization, our belief system, our values, our culture, our religion enabled us to not be sabotaged and crippled by so-called evil, corrupting Jews, according to your belief system. That these apparently, nefarious elders of Zion were not able to subjugate the Muslims, but they were able to thrive. They were able to prosper. They were able to have happy and secure lives and have influence in the society. And yet somehow we were not corrupted the way your societies have been corrupted. So if nothing else, you can learn that if you're going to go ahead and continue to believe that the Jews are somehow a distinctly evil force in the world, if you insist on having that belief, then you must acknowledge that they were not able to sow corruption and discord and problems in the Muslim world when they were living under the Muslims. So apparently the Muslims are better at keeping people in line and keeping people behaving properly. No matter how nefarious and evil you may think they are, they behave themselves under Muslim rule. There has to be a philosophical change. There has to be an ideological change. There has to be a change in belief system. There has to be a change in values. There has to be a change in culture. There has to be a change, a civilizational change. Mentally, psychologically, emotionally, in your beliefs, in order for you to actually recognize what's happening and what has happened to you and what's been done to you, in order for you to do anything about it.